Most people believe others are driven by morality, loyalty, or logic, but Machiavelli knew the truth. Humans are driven by weakness, their need for validation, their fear of being ignored, their hunger for status, and their desperation to feel important. The moment you understand these pressures, people stop being unpredictable. They become readable, influenceable, and easy to maneuver. Power doesn't come from force, it comes from understanding what someone can control inside themselves. You don't survive a world of hidden motives by being innocent. You survive by seeing what others hide. Machiavelli moved through courts filled with traitors and opportunists, yet he stayed steps ahead because he studied people with ruthless accuracy. He didn't believe what they said, he watched what they feared, what they desired, and what they couldn't resist. And when you begin thinking this way, everything changes. You stop falling for flattery. You stop reacting emotionally. You stop giving people access to your intentions. You start navigating life like a strategist, not a victim. The same forces that destroyed weaker men become tools in your hands. If you're ready to sharpen your perception, see power the way Machiavelli saw it, and learn the psychological tactics that make you immune to manipulation, stay until the end. Subscribe to Dark Psychology Blueprint, drop your thoughts in the comments, and prepare your mind for a darker, sharper level of awareness. Study their weakness before showing your strength. Before you ever show your strength, you study the battlefield. And with people, the battlefield is their mind. Machiavelli understood that every person carries a hidden fracture, a fear they try to hide, a desire they can't control, a wound they haven't healed, or an insecurity quietly shaping their behavior. They present themselves as confident, rational, moral, but beneath the surface something always drives them. If you rush to show your power first, you expose yourself before understanding theirs. But if you studied their weakness first, you turn the entire interaction into controlled territory. You watch how their eyes react to praise, how they stiffen at criticism, how quickly they try to impress or defend themselves. You notice who they envy, who they obey, and who they despise. These micro-behaviors reveal more truth than any confession ever could. Once you understand someone's weakness, their strength becomes irrelevant. A proud person becomes predictable because their ego guides their decisions. An insecure person becomes easy to influence because they overvalue those who give them attention. A manipulative person becomes powerless when you see the emptiness behind their charm. You're no longer threatened by them because you're not reacting to the mask. You're reading the structure beneath it. This is why Machiavelli advised rulers to observe in silence. People reveal more when they think they're safe, respected, or underestimated. The moment someone believes you're harmless, they stop guarding their vulnerabilities. But this tactic is not about cruelty, it's about strategy. If you understand where someone breaks, you understand how to prevent them from breaking you. You avoid giving emotional power to someone whose weakness is jealousy. You avoid trusting someone whose weakness is attention. You avoid relying on someone whose weakness is fear. Their weakness becomes your map, guiding you through the terrain of their intentions with clarity instead of illusion. And because you know what drives them, you control how close they get to influencing your decisions. Then, and only then, do you show your strength. Not aggressively, not loudly, but with precise timing. When you reveal your capabilities after studying theirs, they realize, too late, that they misread you. They overestimated their influence, underestimated your intelligence, and exposed everything you needed to know. Your power lands harder because it wasn't announced. It was calculated. In a world of masks, the one who studies weakness first becomes the one who never plays blind. And that is why true power begins long before you strike. It begins the moment you observe. Use silence as a weapon to make others reveal themselves. Silence is not emptiness, it is pressure. It is the invisible force that exposes people far faster than confrontation ever could. Most individuals cannot tolerate silence because silence forces them to face their own insecurity. They fill the quiet with explanations, excuses, opinions, confessions, and small pieces of themselves they never intended to give away. Machiavelli understood this long before modern psychology existed. If you want to understand someone, you don't overpower them, you outweight them. You let the silence sit in the room like a cold blade, and eventually, they start talking to escape it. They reveal their doubts, exaggerate their strengths, justify their decisions, or expose their intentions. And the best part, they believe they're controlling the conversation while you're silently studying their entire psychological structure. Silence works because it disrupts the illusion people use to protect themselves. Talkers depend on noise to appear confident. Manipulators depend on fast words to create confusion. Insecure people depend on constant explanations to avoid judgment. But when you go still, when you refuse to react, correct, or reassure, their mask begins to slip. You see what they fear when there is no audience. You see what they desire when they think you're not judging. You see how they treat you when they're unsure of your thoughts. And in that moment, their behavior becomes more honest than any direct answer they could give. But silence doesn't just reveal the truth about others. It reveals the truth about you. It shows who controls the emotional tempo. It shows who is anchored and who is drifting. When you remain quiet, you communicate discipline, composure, and mental strength without speaking a single word. You make people wonder what you know, what you're thinking, what you're planning. That uncertainty becomes a psychological weight they carry, a subtle fear of misreading you. And fear in power dynamics is leverage. Eventually, people begin adapting their behavior around your silence. They approach you more cautiously, they think before they speak, they try harder to earn clarity from you, and without raising your voice or even moving a muscle, you shape the interaction on your terms. This is why silence is not passive. It is a weapon sharpened by patience. The one who speaks first reveals their cards. The one who stays silent decides how the game will end. Give selective praise to control ambitious people. Ambitious people are the easiest to influence, not because they are weak, but because they crave recognition more than anything else. Machiavelli understood that the hunger for validation is one of the strongest forces in human nature. When you give someone constant praise, they become spoiled, entitled, and blind. But when you give selective praise, delivered with precision and scarcity, you create something far more powerful: psychological dependence. They begin to associate your approval with progress, your acknowledgement with success, and your silence with failure. Suddenly, you are no longer just a presence in their life. You are the quiet judge they work to impress. The less often you reward them, the harder they push to earn your approval again. Selective praise works because of one simple truth. Ambitious people project their identity onto their achievements. They want to be seen as exceptional, irreplaceable, superior. When you recognize this desire and feed it in controlled doses, you gain influence without force. Just a single sentence, delivered at the right moment, can shape their entire behavior. Praise their loyalty, and they become more loyal. Praise their intelligence, and they reveal more ideas. Praise their potential, and they begin to look at you as the person who understands their hidden greatness. They start relying on you to validate their ambitions, and that subtle reliance becomes your leverage. But selective praise is also a filter. When someone receives recognition from you, pay attention to how they react. The truly dangerous ones will become arrogant. The insecure ones will become dependent. The wise ones will become motivated but remain balanced. This lets you identify who can be trusted, who can be influenced, and who should be kept at a distance. Machiavelli never praised without purpose. His praise was a tool to study loyalty, strengthen alliances, or reveal hidden ego. Eventually, your controlled approval becomes a quiet form of power. Ambitious people step carefully around you. They overthink your silence. They seek to decode your expressions. They push themselves harder because your rare praise feels like a reward, earned, not given. And when someone values your praise more than the praise of the world, you subtly become the authority they measure themselves against. This is the Machiavellian reality. You don't control ambitious people by suppressing them. You control them by feeding their ambition strategically. A single drop of validation, given at the right moment, becomes more powerful than 100 empty compliments. Use mystery to create fear and respect at the same time. Mystery is one of the most underestimated tools in human psychology. When people cannot fully read you, they are forced to create their own stories about who you are, and those stories are always more powerful than anything you could tell them yourself. Machiavelli understood that a mysterious person forces others into a state of uncertainty, and uncertainty breeds both fear and respect. People fear what they cannot predict, and they respect what they cannot fully understand. The moment you become transparent, you lose that advantage. But when you remain partially hidden, your intentions, your limits, your strengths, your next move, you become a figure people tread carefully around. Mystery works because it removes the sense of control others desperately want. Human beings feel safe when they can categorize you: friendly, weak, emotional, harmless, predictable. But when you don't fit into any category, when your reactions are calm but unreadable, when your goals remain concealed, they start to calculate around you instead of against you. They begin to think twice before speaking, acting, or challenging you. Your presence alone becomes a psychological variable they cannot ignore. And without saying a word, you take command of the emotional landscape. But mystery isn't about acting strange or distant. It's about intentional restraint. You reveal just enough to appear competent, but never enough for anyone to anticipate your full capabilities. You show strength, but not its extent. You show agreement, but not your full thoughts. You show emotion, but never your true emotional anchor. People start to sense there is more beneath the surface, more intelligence, more strategy, more power. And that sense creates a silent intimidation stronger than open confrontation. At the same time, mystery amplifies respect. When you are not easily accessible or easily understood, people assume depth. They assume discipline. They assume you know more than you reveal. And because of that, they come to you differently. With caution, with curiosity, with a quiet desire to impress rather than oppose. Even enemies hesitate, because attacking someone whose mind they cannot grasp feels dangerous. This dual effect, fear and respect, forms a protective aura around you. People avoid crossing boundaries they can't see. They avoid provoking someone whose reactions they cannot predict. And they avoid underestimating a person who never shows all their cards. Mystery is not a mask. It is a shield. And when used with precision, it makes you powerful long before you ever lift a finger. Exploit predictable ego reactions to guide their decisions. The ego is the most predictable part of human nature. People may hide their intentions, disguise their fears, or mask their desires, but their ego always exposes them. Machiavelli understood that if you study how someone reacts to pride, criticism, recognition, or disrespect, you can guide their decisions without force, threats, or negotiation. Most individuals are slaves to their ego. They need to feel superior, admired, included, respected, or at the very least, not overshadowed, and that need becomes your leverage. When you learn how a person's ego operates, you no longer fight them, you steer them. You see it in the smallest details. How they respond when someone else is praised. how they react when their ideas aren't acknowledged, how deeply they crave validation from certain people. The proud become reckless when their status is challenged. The insecure become loyal when their confidence is reinforced. The competitive expose themselves trying to win admiration, and those who desperately want to seem intelligent reveal their ignorance the moment you give them a chance to speak. Ego makes even the smartest people predictable, and predictable people are easily influenced. To exploit ego is not to humiliate someone, it's to strategically present stimuli that activate the behavior you want. Praise an arrogant person at the right moment, and they lower their guard, eager to impress you. Withdraw recognition from someone insecure, and they work harder to regain your approval. Subtly challenge a competitive person, and they rush into proving themselves, revealing their limits. Give an overly confident person the illusion of control, and they make decisions that benefit you without realizing they were prompted. The power lies in timing. You don't push the ego constantly. You push it when the outcome aligns with your interests. Machiavelli knew that people rarely see the strings attached to their emotional reactions. They believe every move they make is their own idea. That illusion is what makes this tactic so potent. You are not forcing them, you are influencing the direction their ego naturally wants to go. Eventually, you stop seeing people at face value. You see the patterns behind their choices. You understand what blinds them, what motivates them, what destabilizes them. And once you can predict how a person will react, you control the situation long before the reaction occurs. This is the Machiavellian truth. If you know how someone's ego works, you never need to overpower them. You simply guide them to the conclusion you wanted all along. Offer small favors to build invisible psychological debt. The simplest way to control someone is not through force or threats. It is through debt. Not financial debt, but the psychological kind that grows quietly and binds people far more tightly than money ever could. Machiavelli understood that when you offer a small favor at the right moment, you plant a seed of obligation inside a person's mind. It doesn't have to be grand. In fact, the smaller the favor, the more subtle the effect. A timely piece of advice, a gesture of support when no one else offered it, a moment of help that takes you little time but means much more to them. The act seems harmless, but the impact is strategic. Now they feel they owe you. Humans hate being indebted. It bothers their pride, their ego, their sense of fairness. Even the most arrogant individuals feel a quiet discomfort knowing someone helped them. That discomfort becomes leverage. They begin to justify their loyalty to you. They excuse your flaws. They defend you when you're not around. They treat you with a respect they never showed before. All because their subconscious is trying to repay the imbalance. This is what Machiavelli called binding allies with benefits. Small gestures that create long-lasting influence. But the secret is timing. A favor means nothing when it is expected. It becomes powerful when it is unexpected, undeserved, or delivered at a moment of vulnerability. When someone is struggling, overwhelmed, or isolated, even a small gesture becomes meaningful, and that meaning ties them to you. They start seeing you as someone who recognized their need before they even voiced it. That emotional imprint lasts far longer than the favor itself. This tactic also reveals character. Some people will repay kindness with loyalty. Others will take advantage, believing they are entitled to more. Machiavelli would say, the first type is worth keeping. The second type is worth controlling from a distance. When you give small favors, you're not just creating debt. You're identifying who can be influenced and who should never be trusted. Over time, the favors accumulate in their memory, more than in your effort. You remain generous, but never indebted. They remain grateful, but never fully balanced. And without realizing it, they start aligning themselves with you, adjusting their decisions to stay in your good graces. This is the quiet genius of Machiavellian strategy. True power doesn't always come from domination. Sometimes it comes from the subtle discomfort of knowing someone helped you, and that you can't quite repay it. Hide your real intentions behind harmless behavior. Machiavelli understood a timeless truth. People only fear what looks dangerous, and they only defend themselves against what appears threatening. If you present your real intentions too early, you invite resistance. You awaken suspicion. You trigger the instinct in others to stop you before you gain momentum. But when you hide your long-term goals behind harmless behavior, you move through the world like a ghost, unnoticed, underestimated, and unchallenged. This is not deception, it is strategy. You don't show your ambition. You don't reveal your plans. You don't announce what you're building. You let people believe you are calm, predictable, uninterested in power, and easy to read. And while they relax around you, you quietly position yourself in places they never thought to guard. Harmless behavior creates a psychological blind spot. People lower their defenses around someone who seems gentle, agreeable, or distracted. They reveal more. They become sloppy. They underestimate intelligence that doesn't advertise itself. They speak freely around a person who doesn't appear to be a threat, and in doing so, they expose their motives, alliances, weaknesses, and ambitions with shocking honesty. By the time they realize you are paying attention, you already understand the entire landscape of the room. But the deeper advantage is control over timing. When you hide your intentions, you gain the luxury of choosing when to reveal your strength, not reacting out of fear, but acting from position. You wait until your foundation is built, your allies are aligned, your knowledge is complete. Then, when you finally move, there is nothing anyone can do to stop you, because you didn't give them enough warning to prepare. People love to prepare for visible threats. They are helpless against invisible ones. Hiding your intentions also protects your mind. When you share your goals openly, you invite criticism, sabotage, envy, and competition. When you keep them private, you remove these obstacles entirely. Your growth becomes silent. Your power becomes subtle. Your influence becomes invisible until it is undeniable. Eventually, people begin to realize something unsettling. You were never as harmless as you appeared. The calmness wasn't weakness, it was calculation. The silence wasn't confusion, it was observation. And the lack of visible ambition wasn't a lack of vision, it was discipline. This is a Machiavellian truth. The most effective power is the kind no one notices until it's already too late to oppose. Control what they think you want, so they never see your real goal. Machiavelli understood that if people ever discover what you truly want, they gain the ability to block it, weaponize it, or manipulate you with it. The real art of strategy is not hiding your intentions entirely, it's controlling the illusion of what your intentions appear to be. When you guide people to believe you want something harmless, ordinary, or predictable, they stop paying attention to your real moves. They relax. They underestimate your strategy. They miscalculate your direction, and while they're busy forming assumptions, you quietly pursue the objective you never mentioned. This misdirection isn't deception for the sake of lying, it's protection. You choose what others see, and by doing so, you decide what they can interfere with. Most people rely on honesty not because it's virtuous, but because they're reactive. They reveal their wants immediately: acceptance, approval, recognition, control. And in doing so, they hand everyone around them a map to their vulnerabilities. Machiavelli warned leaders never to do this. If others know your desires, they can manipulate you. If they think they know your desires, you manipulate them by letting people believe you're driven by something small, whether it's peace, routine, neutrality, or simplicity. You lull them into complacency. They think they understand you, They think they can predict you. They think they know what moves you. But what they believe is a script you wrote for them. This tactic gives you control of the social landscape. When people misjudge your motives, they reveal their own without realizing it. They speak openly, believing you're not a threat. They position themselves based on how they perceive your goals. They create alliances, plans, or strategies under the assumption that you're aiming at something else entirely. Meanwhile, your true path remains unseen, uninterrupted, and unchallenged. And when the time comes to reveal your real objective, when your position is secured, your influence established, your timing perfect, everyone finds themselves too late to resist. They were guarding the wrong door. They were preparing for the wrong outcome. They were watching the illusion you gave them while your real ambition grew in silence. Eventually, people learn something unsettling about you. Predicting your moves is impossible because the ones they've been analyzing were never the real ones. You control the narrative of your motives, and by controlling the narrative, you control the entire game. This is the Machiavellian truth. The most powerful strategy is making others confident they understand you. While you quietly advance a goal they will never see coming. Power doesn't reveal itself through noise or emotion. It reveals itself through precision. When you understand the psychology behind these strategies, you stop walking through the world blind. You begin to see the motives behind people's actions, the weaknesses behind their confidence, and the opportunities hidden in their behavior. This is how Machiavelli survived courts filled with betrayal and ambition, not by trusting the world, but by understanding it. Now, the same knowledge is in your hands. If you're ready to sharpen your mind, see human nature without illusions, and learn the darker side of influence, stay with this channel. Subscribe to Dark Psychology Blueprint, turn on notifications, and tell me in the comments which Machiavellian trick opened your eyes the most. Your awareness is your advantage. Use it.